Hello, friends. As you know, occasionally I like to use my channel and my platform to amplify the voices of BIPOC to share their views. Today is one of those videos. If you are here just for sewing content and this isn't your jam, feel free to click out now. However, I have a real big treat for you guys. I would love to introduce you to one of my very dearest friends, Sarah of Not Your Typical Doll Face. Hi, Sarah, and welcome to my channel.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so cool to be here.
Yeah, it's weird that you've never been on my channel. Like, actually, we've known each other a really long time, and many of you guys might know her from pictures of us at Disneyland, etc., Hamilton, etc. So, as you guys may or may not know, I used to have a makeup channel, and Sarah's the reason I actually have a makeup channel. Well, I had one. She has a makeup channel now. I will link that down below. She also talks about like running stuff because you do marathons, and that's crazy.
It's a weird combo, but it works and it's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Share that on the internet with other people who are excited about it.
Yeah, and as you can see, she's much better at having a makeup channel because, like, she has good makeup on and I look like this. So that's why I'm making sewing videos, guys. Obviously, as you can see, Sarah is a woman of color and of the Muslim faith. She wears a hijab on the daily and practices her faith in a variety of ways, including observing Muslim holidays. One of the most significant of which, Ramadan, is starting soon. The reason that I wanted to make this video is that Sarah and I talk a lot about her faith, and she is unbelievably generous with me about giving this particular atheist all kinds of answers to all kinds of questions. One day I asked her about Ramadan, and she gave me the most beautiful answer, and it was so moving. And I thought, you know what? You should share this with the world because it might make people chill out a little bit and see the holiday in a different light. So here we are. I guess at first I'd like to ask you some general questions about Ramadan to familiarize people with the holiday, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so do you want to tell us about Ramadan? There's a bunch of different aspects of it that I have questions about, but I would love to hear your like broad overview.
Yeah, for sure. So Ramadan is the name of a month in the Islamic calendar to like really take it to its most simplest form. And
I
because the Islamic what's that? Oh, you didn't know that?
know I was today years old when I found that out.
Yeah. So it's the name of the month.
Okay.
And because the Islamic calendar follows the lunar calendar, it shifts every year. So this year it happens to start April 13th and it'll go for 30 to 31 days, depending on how long the lunar cycle is.
April 13th is also another special day.
A very special day. It happens to be my birthday. This is the first time ever that that's happened. Fasted for my birthday, actually. So,
Wow.
yeah,
How long does it take to go all the way around the year?
20 something years.
Oh, it must be, yeah, if there's 52 weeks and it moves 2 weeks each time, right?
10 or 11 days, I think.
Okay, yeah, so it would be like 26 or 7. Yeah, okay.
That would take a while. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
And it follows a lunar calendar. It's a month, and the purpose of the month of Ramadan, again, bare bones, would be to fast from sun up to sundown. So no kind of any consumption, food, water, juice, any of that between that time of day. Um, and there's some extra prayers that are done at the end of the day. The purpose, though, of the month really is to be a month of cleansing, of reflection, of inward introspection, if you will, and really a chance to be grateful for all that we have,
Mhm.
um, and just kind of strip everything back down. Obviously, a lot of disclaimers, a lot of caveats. If you can't fast because you're pregnant or you have a medical condition or all kinds of other reasons, you're obviously exempt. And if fasting would bring you harm, you're also asked to not partake in that part of the month. But you've got a whole bunch of other myriad of ways to engage with the intention behind it, really.
Right. One of the things that I get personal joy out of watching you do this each time is if for some reason you do have to skip days for whatever reason, it's like very flexible. Like it allows you to do makeup days later. So like you're not really supposed to, I'm gonna do some TMI just for a minute so you don't have to. If you're a female who happens to have a menstrual cycle, you're not supposed to fast during those days. You're already losing enough iron, and there's a myriad of reasons why you shouldn't do that. So you make those days up later. And I always find like I when I learned about that, I was like, oh, That's really nice. Like they, this is a long month, right? So they give you a lot of grace, which I think is really cool.
Totally. If you're on your menstrual cycle, if you have to do a round of antibiotics, if there's any other reason, you can make it up. Also, if you have to make up too many days, like if it's a couple days and it's not a huge burden to do, you're totally welcome to do them any time within the 365 days between the two Ramadans. But
Maybe
there's
not
also,
solstice in December.
that is what you always recommend to me, and I always somehow forget to do.
I'm gonna start sending you like an actual greeting card that's like time to do makeup days.
I did my makeup days like 2 weeks ago. Um, why? Who knows? The other thing that you can do, like I've had friends who've had to miss multiple weeks. If it becomes too much of a burden to redo the days throughout the year, you can pay something called a kafara. So it's basically the equivalent of feeding someone for 30 days. It ends up being not a huge number depending on where you are. I think last year was like $210.
Yeah,
So in that way, you pay that, you let somebody else who's fasting have access to meals who may not have, and then you don't have to do them if, like I said, it becomes too much of a burden to redo those days later on.
so it's sun up to sundown wherever you are on the planet, right?
Correct.
So if you are at the equator, it's approximately 12 to 13 hours. If you're in northern Canada and
Very long as well.
it's July, it can get really bad. So, what is the longest you've had to fast?
So I fasted a few years ago leading up to the summer solstice.
Hmm.
Those were long days. I want to say we started around 4. So in reality, the sun would come out, like the sun would come up around 4:30. But I don't usually eat in the morning. So I would eat in the evening around 10:30, and would go until 10:30 again. But even those who would be eating in the morning, you're going from, let's call it 4:30 to 10:30. Like that's a long day. There are some recent schools of thought that say that that's too much and
Yeah,
it's too prohibitive. So there has been kind of like, if you will, a religious ruling that's come out that would allow you to fast with the closest Muslim country to you, that may then carve off a few hours of your day. That would be the same school if that would be followed in places that don't see sunshine,
right.
like Alaska, for example, or see very minimal sunshine.
Mhm.
You could follow that as well. And I know friends who have, and it's been successful for them. So there, like you said, there again, there's some flexibility to make sure that you're able to follow through with the intent of the month without putting yourself through intensive harm.
Right. So, for people who don't know how this works, can you explain the whole like you don't have to stay up all night and eat thing? You can like eat and then sleep and then eat and then the sun comes up and you just sleep some more. And like if it were me, I would stay up all night and eat and then just sleep as much of that day as I I'm trying to cheat my way out of Ramadan though. So,
It's not just you. I think anybody who has flexibility within their day,
yeah.
when I was in university, it was a lot easier. You could take naps during the day.
Yeah.
I know depending on your work situation, there's flexible arrangements there. But in reality, what tends to happen is once sundown occurs, you'll have your main meal at that point, and you have to be somewhat strategic about what you're eating to make sure you're getting enough nutrients, you're not burning yourself out, you're letting your system digest. There are people that do a really tiny meal, go do some prayer, and then come back, or those that sit and just do their main meal then.
Mhm.
But realistically, then you're going to want to take a break. Go out for a walk, pray, read, sit as a family, do something to let yourself digest a little bit. And then, I mean, for me, and then I'll probably have a small meal, lots of water, and head out to bed. There is a lot of people, when I was little and I was fasting, I would wake up before sunup, half an hour before the sun comes up, to have basically a mini breakfast. Again, hydration is really important, making sure you get your water in at that point as well as vital, and then go back to bed before we have to go to school or work or whatever. And then you kind of proceed with your day from there.
Cool. Can you talk about like the feasts and the like breaking fast aspect of Ramadan?
For sure. Definitely a very different experience during COVID last year, and I'm imagining will be the same this year. Typically, the breaking fast is done, and this is more less of kind of religiously required stipulations and more kind of a culturally formed habit, I guess. is the way to describe it, is that it's supposed to be a big meal with a lot of people. So whether that's your extended family or your community or people in your neighborhood, the idea is breaking bread together and having that shared sense of community together. So as I said, different during pandemic times, but trying to keep that together by, if wherever possible, whether it's on Skype or whether it's people you're bubbling with or wherever it is, breaking that bread together, having a communal meal where we're engaged, we're having conversation. That tends to be one of my favorite parts of the month. Like, how often do you get to sit down with people for 30 or 31 days straight and just engage with them on conversations and well wishes and eating good food together?
You're always really happy about that.
I don't know. One of my favorite parts. It really is.
So, can you talk about Eid, little Eid and big Eid?
Yeah, for sure. So interestingly enough, I always think Big Eid should be after Ramadan. I'm like, we just spent 30 days fasting. But interestingly enough, it's not. So Eid is the name for celebration. It's what we do at the end of the month to celebrate the fasting and the joint kind of month of cleansing that we've had together. There is, again, I think depending on where you're at, it's become more of a custom as it's become somewhat more of a commercialized holiday to do a gift exchange. I think it's, like I said, more of a big thing now than it was then. And I'm like, hey, I don't get Christmas, so let's do gifts at Eid. It's always nice. But in reality, typically, you spend it, obviously, gifts, cards, however, but really visiting with everybody that you know or that you care to wish, happy holidays to. There is a prayer in the morning, along with kind of a little sermon to commemorate what we did together. There's a few common prayers, almost like hymnal, lyrical prayers that get said. So you do that, and then you go around visiting everybody, exchanging gifts and what have you. 40 days thereafter, there's the pilgrimage to Mecca, where, if you've ever seen it, it's that kind of black box in Saudi, probably using the wrong terminology, but there's that whole pilgrimage along with a whole set of kind of rituals and celebrations that gets done there. And at the end of that 10-day cycle, then there's the big Eid, the larger kind of celebration, which talks about, having finished these two major milestone moments for the Muslim faith. So you get to celebrate both, regardless of where you are or whether or not you were partaking in the pilgrimage. And those are, I would say, the two big high holidays, if you would, of the Muslim faith.
Cool. Is there a story behind Ramadan? Like, what triggered, like, we celebrate Christmas as a way to commemorate the birth of Christ. And then if you're Jewish, there are reasons that you celebrate Passover and Hanukkah. And is there a reason that Ramadan is Ramadan?
Yeah, so it's one of the major pillars of the faith. The reason behind it being that as human beings, there's a tendency that we have of forgetting the things and the blessings in our lives. And this gives you a yearly reminder to slow down and to take thanks for what you have and to remember how much less fortunate others can be. So it's a practice in piety and gratitude for yourself, but a reminder of those in need. And I always find that not only is a very self-reflective month, but it causes a kind of communal generosity of, hey, there are others in our community, Muslim or not, who are hungry. Like, do you remember how hard that was to do for 30 days? Can you imagine being in this state long term? And so it talks to kind of a larger commitment to charity, to giving, to community. I think that's really necessary, and what I think was the main impetus behind the month.
That's really thoughtful. Do you want to talk about your hijab and the parts of it? Your hijab is not the same as everyone's hijab. Like, this is again, Sarah, by the way, is not a monolith. So this is just her faith and how she practices it. But it's also, like, if we talk about her hijab, everybody wears a different kind of hijab. So I particularly find yours to be very, like, it's cool. Like, sometimes she does these gradiated rainbow situations with them, and I'm just like, wow, because there's like multiple parts. So yeah, can you talk us through that?
For sure. So I agree with you that would be the disclaimer that I would give, is anything that I talk about here is my interpretation and my connection with my faith. And I use the word faith very thoughtfully, Noel and I have had many conversations about faith versus religion. So there's things that I ascribe to, and especially when I talked about Ramadan, there are things that are very religion based. Like this is what it says in the religious text, and where I get kind of my direction or guidelines for how I choose to live my life. But then I talk about my faith as a thing that grounds me and that I find solace in. And so for me, my hijab is one of those things. Um, I actually had to fight my family pretty hard to be allowed to wear it, because when I decided I want to put it on, I was 12 years old and they thought I was too young to make this decision.
And no one else in your family wore one?
No, when I started, no, it was just me.
Yeah.
And it came, I think, like without getting too political about it, it came at the heels of September 11th. And so there was a lot of fear that my family had over me taking such a stance.
Yeah.
And what kind of opportunities that could prevent me from, or what kind of danger it could put me in. And I think for me, what drew me to it was I had a connection to something that felt bigger than me.
Right.
Something that made me feel safe when things were chaotic, something that reminded me to be a person that went out in the world who was caring and kind and grateful. And it was the physical representation of that, really, to me.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same way that I think people get comfort out of wearing any kind of religious symbol, or any kind of symbol of anything that gives them that solace and that strength, that's what the hijab meant to me. It's also really interestingly become a talking point. I mean, I feel like it's one of the first things you and I connected over and talked about.
Yeah. I was
right?
like, what's up with that?
And I think it's been such a cool experience. Like, as I've lived in different places and traveled to different places and met a whole bunch of different people, it's been a conversation starter, which I found really rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah. So yours in particular is multiple pieces.
Correct.
So can you talk about like the physical structure of your hijab?
Yeah, for sure. So this one I have in different colors. It literally is like a rectangular piece of fabric, and I just like it because it keeps my hair in place and I'm not fidgeting with it all day. And
It's essentially like my bandana in some ways.
Yeah, but it's a little stretchy, so it almost fits like a headband.
Mm-hmm.
And then this second black piece, if you can see it,
Mm-hmm.
is just like a larger. Nike has them now, like the Nike hijabs. Like they basically just like cover everything, go down.
A hood that comes around here.
Yeah. Exactly. And then this one I wear literally just because I like to add a little bit more volume and play around with the shape. So it's just like a longer scarf that I twist around and pin into place.
Oh, could you wear your hijab without the top one?
Totally. So when I go running, I will only wear the two bottom ones.
Oh, I was today years old when I learned that.
Yeah.
I feel like I've known you my whole life and I just found that out. Cool video. I'm glad you talked about the whole thing, because the controversial question is, does anyone make you practice your faith? Did anyone make you wear your hijab? Does anyone make you do Ramadan?
And my answer is no. And I appreciate, though, that that is not the answer for everybody.
That is true.
So the thing that I would want to say, though, without a doubt here, is that nobody is supposed, like if you go back even to the text, not even to my own interpretation of the faith, nobody is supposed to make you do any of these things. You have to willingly choose them. I think just like any kind of religion, in order to be rewarded for any act that you do, you have to do it of your full and own volition, right? So Ramadan, prayer, wearing the hijab, any of it has to come from you. And I honestly think that if it doesn't, you're going through the motions anyways, and you're not doing any of these things with the intention that would bring you that peace, happiness, joy, sense of fulfillment. So it's unfortunate, and it kind of misses the mark anyways.
It seems to me, from my interpretation of what you've said, and also at some points I have I went on a like random spiritual journey of my own at one point. It seems to be a very intent-based religion. Like, it matters that you choose to do things and you're doing them for the right reason.
Totally. Well, I think you and I have talked about this a lot. So the question that I always get on my channel, and I don't know if we'll get it here, is about my makeup. Because technically, if the point of the hijab and the modest dress and all of it is modesty, does makeup not take away from that? So there's a lot of controversy about this. It's like whether I even should be wearing makeup as a veiled woman. And to me, it goes back to intent because, like you said, my interpretation and my connection with my religion is that it's an intent-based religion. So I don't wear makeup with the intent to be more appealing or alluring, or you know what I mean? Like anything that would take away from the modest wear aspect of it. I do it to play with color and glitter and bright lipstick. And it's a sense of creativity and expression. And with that, I've always felt that the intent behind it is in line with my overall intent and I'm good. And that's by and large how I approach this faith and how a lot of people that have truly connected with it approach it. Do you get that gut feeling in your stomach that the intent behind what you're doing is in line with the intents of the religion? If so, awesome. If not, then you have to realign yourself or make a conscious decision to say, I agree with this part and I'm going to go over here. And this may be against the base intent, but it's my own interpretation of my own life and I'm okay with it.
And your makeup is for you, not to
100%.
a man or to, any of the things that could be controversial with that. And I can completely, I mean, we've gone to imats together. And for people who don't know what imats is, it's a giant makeup trade show in LA. And we were next level made up when we went there.
It's sure. I think that's the only other time we filmed together, actually.
Is it really?
I think so. Do you remember how crazy we were that night? We were just completely exhausted and not making it.
We were slap happy and we'd spent a lot of money. We're in this hotel just giggling. Oh, did we make my boss do? So who was a Chinese man? We got him to do face masks while we watched really bad movies. So we had him do like multiple layer face mask. It was amazing. Like it was a very fun. Yeah. All right. So as you can see, it's gotten dark in Canada. So the lights have come on. So if you saw a sudden jump of lights, that's why. And now to celebrate the lights, can you tell me and share with the world what your thoughts are about Ramadan and why it's so special to you and why it's important to you to practice it in the way that you do?
100%. When I was little, it was really important and special to me because I didn't get the whole pomp and circumstance of Christmas and Easter, which is what all my other friends got to celebrate. And so it felt like this really special holiday that was for me, and where I got all that sense of celebration and anticipation. But also, my parents always made a big deal of on Eid bringing like a big pizza lunch to all my friends. So from a very young age, it was something that was special and that I got to celebrate, but then I also got to celebrate with my friends. So it kind of spread that sense of celebration and we had more holidays. So just like we did Secret Santa at Christmas, and I got a sense of celebration kind of from a distance for their holidays and things that were important to them, I got to share the same thing when it came to my Eid. As I've grown older, I've realized that I really look forward to this month every year because I have a tendency of getting wrapped up in the pace and the anxiety and the stress of everyday life. And as much as I try to make it a daily habit to stop and take account of things that I'm grateful for, it's a lot easier to do when everything gets stripped away and you have to focus on just that for 30 days. So for me, the reason it's so important is that it's that chance to really focus, take gratitude, take pause. And I find that it helps me remember that more intensely than when I don't have a chance to do that habitually, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's really like beautiful and like purifying for your whole year. Like that's awesome. We have talked about if you come visit during Ramadan, I'll do it with you, and then you can hear me whine through 3 days of dealing with Ramadan. Can you come and do that when it hits like January?
That would be the only time I would put you through.
I'll see you in 8 years, and I'll give Ramadan a try for a few days.
Perfect.
Like it'll be fun. So Sarah has offered to check the comments out. And if any of you have specific and very respectful questions that you want to ask her that we haven't answered here today, she's super awesome and she's willing to answer them for you. I do have to warn you that any rude or disrespectful comments will get you hidden from my channel. So that's not a thing I'm going to tolerate for my friend. But if you have something that you wanted to know and you've always wanted to know about Ramadan or her hijab or any of the other things, she is awesome about taking questions and answering them. That's in fact how we got to be friends, because I literally said, hey, what's up with your hijab? So if you have a question, please leave them down below and I'm happy to have her peek at them. We're probably going to do this, a little bit. She will be going through Ramadan for the next few weeks. So if she's slow answering them, it's not that she's ignoring them or whatever. It's just she has bigger things that she's dealing with, which is, I think, right now 16 hours of fasting a day.
It's a long day.
It's a long, long day. Every day I WhatsApp her and I'm like, happy Ramadan. Everything is great here. And then I go away. All right. Thank you all for joining us today and learning about Ramadan and how my buddy practices her faith. I believe that meeting and experiencing all different kinds of people makes us all richer. So I like to share that with you if I can. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. And if you did, please give it a thumbs up. And I will see you soon with probably more sewing videos. Bye, guys.